the fact that something is no longer the right fit, it doesn't even necessarily mean that we made the poor choice when we made it those years ago. It just can be about that we've outgrown it or our other life circumstances have changed such that it no longer fits into our life when we look at the bigger picture.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome back to the show, friend. I have Mary Beth, my new best friend, with me. And we're chatting and we're going to talk about redefining our success. So many things I did growing up and through my life was somebody else's idea of success. Did you grow up and get married? Did you grow up and have kids? Did you grow up and who cares? It's what you choose. You know, this is your success. It's your life. So we're going to talk about redefining that so we can have confidence and not guilt in our lives. The information about Mary Beth is in the show notes. So let's get started. Mary Beth, help me redefine my measurements of success.
Yeah, this came up for me. I'm thinking of one really good example about when I was deciding whether to continue working for the large law firm. So where I was brought up was really sort of a blue collar environment. No one went to college, but I was always encouraged that I was going to go to college. School was my one positive place. And I put a lot of energy into it. And also, it really defines who I thought I was. It was sort of, the essence of who I was. I was smart. I was academic. I was analytical. And these were the characteristics of myself that I valued. And so I actually went to law school when I was 39. So it was sort of a big midlife career change. And when I got out at 42, I worked for a really large law firm. And that was like, the job to get, other than getting a Supreme Court clerkship, that was the job to get. And I did that and I went and there was, a lot of positive. First of all, it was good money, but it was very challenging work. You were surrounded with people who were really smart and focused, and I learned a lot. But after a couple years, it became, I wasn't as happy as I anticipated because the hours were so high and it was so stressful. 60, 70, 80 hours every week. And so I really had to stand back and say, is this professional success, the part that I've always valued the most, am I over prioritizing it? Do I need to have a better balance in some way? And so I was really thinking about it at that point. I must have been I was in my late 40s by then. And it was really thinking about ahead, like, how do I want to spend the next, last 20 years of my professional life? Is this it? And I had to do a lot of, deep analysis. What were my priorities now? What were my values at this point? What did I want those years to look like? And in the end, I decided I still needed challenging work. Like I need that stimulation, that intellectual stimulation. And so I was perfectly happy to continue being a lawyer, but I wanted to find that better work-life balance. And so what I ended up doing was leaving and going to work for the federal government. And I still did large class actions, very high profile cases, but it was just a better balance. And so it was sort of, that for me was a real tipping point, a real point of reflection, a real point of deciding, what do I mean by success? What is a successful life going to be for me going forward?
One of the things that you said made me think about, I kind of had said like, oh, I had kids because I was supposed to, or I got married because I was supposed to, but sometimes it's what I feel good doing. I felt smart. I felt in charge. I had validation in these roles of those things that I was wanting. And so letting those be a measurement is great. But is it where you are really happy? Do I really have to have a $500,000 a year income to be successful? Or could it be different? Do I really have to work 80 hours a week to be successful? And how do we let go of the guilt if we say, I'm only going to make $100,000 a year and I'm only going to spend 40 hours in the office? Is that okay? Am I less of a person because of it? How do I know if I'm successful if I've always measured it based on income? and how many hours I work.
That's true. I mean, and for me as well, I was making more money than anyone in my family, had ever made. And I knew that if I walked away from it, it would be hard to ever get it back. Like it was probably going to be a permanent step back. So I took that consideration very seriously. And certainly I had conversations, with my husband and my friends. But I was in therapy at the time. I spent a lot of time evaluating it, but also just really deeply thinking, I felt the fear of leaving, the sort of the anxiety of leaving. Is this the right choice? But at the same time, I had to be willing to get over what I thought was probably temporary trepidation, that in the long run, when I left, I would actually end up being happier. And that's how it turned out. But there were so many different parts of our life, points in our life where we are making this big decisions. I remember as a child, I think I thought growing up life was just like this, just went along like smooth, like it wasn't really filled with choices. But it really is. There are so many points in life where we make new choices. I mean, for me, I took early retirement and I'm doing different things now. And that was another decision point about when to stop working and how will I spend my retirement years. So I think the main thing is that we sort of touch base with ourselves every now and again. We can get so caught up in the day to day, whether it's working 60 hours or it's balancing 60 hours and a family, or you have parents that are getting older and need your care, whatever the combination might be. It can be really important to at least once every 2 or 3 years really stand back and make sure you're doing what you want to do, you're heading in the direction you want to head in, and you're actually still happy with the choices you made up to now.
I love this still happy with your choices because you're not stuck. Just because you chose this
Yeah.
once, you are not stuck. You can change your mind. And, I say this a lot. The only people not allowed to change their mind are politicians because we're going to hold them accountable for things they said as a dumb kid. It's like, but you get to choose, you get to change. Just because I thought at one time I wanted a dozen kids. I thought that was success to have a lot of kids and be a good mom. I'm glad that I didn't have a dozen kids. That changed really fast after having a few. So it's when am I happy? I don't need to follow these reasons years ago that I thought I was going to be successful. Why did I think children was the measure of success? Because my mother had 8 kids and she said she was amazing. I don't need 8 kids to be amazing. We all can be amazing with what we have right now.
Well, and I'll also add that just because you now decide that it's no longer the right fit doesn't mean it was a wrong decision when you made it 5 or 6 years earlier, right? I mean, I don't regret that I spent 4 years at the large law firm. There were a lot of positives of that experience. It set me up to be able to go out and get the next job that I wanted because I had the right skill set. I had the sort of the prestigious law school, the prestigious resume. So the fact that something is no longer the right fit, it doesn't even necessarily mean that we made the poor choice when we made it those years ago. It just can be about that we've outgrown it, or it served its purpose, or our other life circumstances have changed such that it no longer fits into our life when we look at the bigger picture.
That would be like saying that outfit I picked out when I was a young teenager. It's so cute and it's so perfect and it looks so good on me. Would even be close to a decision I would want to keep today. It's okay to let go of those things that were success, that you were successful. You were beautiful. You look cute and stylish going, but you don't have to stay that. You can change and evolve. And that's the beauty of this world is it's evolution. We're not stuck.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, life is long. It actually, I mean, I'm, a little older now, but it still seems like, first of all, there's plenty left, but there were so many years that were just professionally. How many years are we working? A lot of us from, 22 to 62, at least that's 40 years. There are a lot of different changes you might want to make professionally in those 40 years as far as where your time is spent or how your time is allocated. I mean, even being an attorney, there are all kinds of attorneys, right? And there's all kinds of different workloads. And then some people want to move into the supervisory role, and other people, don't want that. They want to go into the advice and guidance or whatever it might be. There's sort of a lot of natural transitions that we can all make when you're looking at your total career of 40 years.
And yes, it is so amazing to be able to change. And one of the reasons I loved the job I was in was it was always different. Every project was different. Every project had its unique challenges. And I never felt like I was stagnant. It was always fun and challenging. And we all have a different thing that challenges it. You loved learning. And so you found a career where you were constantly having or getting to expand your knowledge. If you love moving, if you love sitting, if you find the career that matches you, and I know you already love your job and you're successful at what you're at, and is it fulfilling your personal measure of success? Or is it just successful on the outside? And it can be both.
Yes. And part of the reason for checking in is because sometimes even if we want to change, we can't make it tomorrow, right? Sometimes we need to plan for the change. Do I need different skills? Do I need to pay off, this debt before I'm able to look at my salary again? Do I need to get my kids through college before it really makes sense for me to change? So part of it checking in isn't just what am I going to do tomorrow? It's, what do I want to get in place so that I can make the change at the appropriate time or when I decide is the right next time. And so it's not always about today. It can be about that longer range planning as well.
Yeah, my measure was I'll work until the house is paid off because then
Yeah.
we don't need that extreme extra amount. So we all have that piece. Or I know people that want to work until they can't work anymore. I set a time. I set a time frame and I retired when that hit. And so it's, what is yours? What is your desire for tomorrow? Because tomorrow you get to choose your day. And you can the rest of the day too.
Yes. I mean, even for me, when I decided to retire, and I always emphasize early retirement, that was a whole nother point because I still want certain challenges, right? I wasn't interested in, I don't know, watching a lot of TV or, I mean, there's many different ways you can give back in retirement, many opportunities, but it was another chance to really think about what do I enjoy doing? I enjoy speaking. I enjoy writing. I enjoy interacting with people and, educating and answering questions. And so I thought about not just sort of what area do I want to work in. And for me, that's sort of the substance use recovery, mental health space, but also what type of work do I want? Because those are really two separate questions. And so now I get to do things that I enjoy doing, but in a part-time basis so that I can have more time for my family or more time for travel or whatever it might be. So again, it was, I think for both of us, another decision point is when are we going to stop working and how are we going to spend the rest of those years when we're still, fairly healthy and, feeling that we have the energy to do things. And for me, in a way, it was an opportunity to be of service to my recovery community in a new way because I was retired and I could do things I really couldn't do when I was a judge. So there's all those many opportunities, even when you stop working, about where you're going to spend your time and energy.
Let's really do some more focusing on how we find that time and energy because sometimes we don't have it. So let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor, and then delve into finding the time and the energy. So we'll be right back. Hey, since I rarely have openings in my coaching schedule, I have a new resource out there on my website. It is called the BFF Coaching Network. And I have offered a spot there for any coach that has been on the show to list the coaching. You can go out there, you can listen to their episodes, you can feel a little bit about them, and then choose a coach that will work for you. So LauraJaneLayton.com, the BFF Coaching Network. All right, Mary Beth. I know sometimes I want to do so many things, like when I want to do this and that. And I have a craft room full of projects that I want to do, but I don't really want to do. Because where am I going to put it afterwards? So as long as it saves the supply, it's really happy. So, so we have these things that we want to do and we plan for them. Sometimes we never do it. Sometimes we do. It's okay. But how do we make that decision of what I want next?
I mean, I think about when I was thinking about whether or not I should leave the big law firm. And I mean, for me, I'm an organization, and I'm a spreadsheet girl. I'm a let's make a list girl. And I mean, I literally, for me, it can be about writing it out. Like what are the considerations? Sort of what are the areas that I'm thinking about? What are the factors in each area? What are the considerations? What are the possibilities? And just standing back and doing that analysis, and I think it's important to do it every couple years at least. But it can help for me if it's written down and if I'm really sort of focused on it, it can help me do the analysis in a clearer way and help me sort of balance that. Sometimes I'll make, what are my three priorities in this area and in this area, and how do I mesh them? But other people do it different ways. Some people do job coaches or career coaches, right? And they can get someone to help them in that way and really do the analysis. And usually if it's about more than work. Even work is almost always going to be related to what's going on in the rest of your life and what are your current interests. Sometimes it can require actually taking a break. Maybe you need to go away on a weekend by yourself, to a hotel room on the beach and have quiet time where you can really ruminate and think about it and get sort of away from the everyday noise and demands of life. So there's a number of different approaches I can think that might work for one person or another.
One of the things is if you don't feel like planning it and you're not good at it, there are so many retreats out there where someone else has all these plans that can keep you in a space of self-reflection and how great those can be. It's what is your happy place? If it's not planning, let someone else do it. If it's not being alone, go out and be with people. If it's, we all have that different need. And that's why it's so important to define our own success. My needs are different than your needs. My best needs are different than your needs. We're different. We're unique. There's where you start planning your success. Is what is it that I stand out as? What is it? Because those are success.
Yeah, and the other thing that makes me think about is part of it is why did I choose to be where I am, right? To really get granular about it. What was it that attracted me to doing what I'm doing or to organizing or making the life choices that I've made? And think about those. And has your emphasis changed? Has your prioritization changed as to these different things? Knowing why you made the choices that got you where you are, it can be an important part of that process to really think about it. It can help you notice if you've changed, how you view it now, or if you've changed the emphasis or the priority. These used to be, 40% of my decision making was this, but now actually I think this is important to me, but maybe it's, reduced in its status, in its weight in my decision making process. So part of it can, I think, be that thinking about why you are where you are and why you made the decisions that you did.
And I know some people that love to brag about their kids and their success because that's their measure of success. Other people brag about and when I use brag, I'm not using that as an annoying. They share. I share this amazing project I was able to do. And, you feel successful when you see those things you want to share and don't dare. That's your measure of success, even if you dare share it, because that's where you feel good. Like, oh, I got a brand new puppy and he sits already. That's of success because it's something you want to share. And we need to realize it. It's okay. I used to go to dinner with a bunch of people and not say a word because everybody had more important stories than me. And you go, was that true? I just love to listen. And I think that's why I did it. I loved hearing people's stories. And guess what? I still get to do it every day. So much fun. So, what is your measure of success?
I mean, at this point, it's really about making sure that I'm using the skills that I enjoy, but also that I'm using them in a way that's of service, to others. I mean, again, I'm retired. There were things that I would have liked to do for my, substance recovery community that when I was a lawyer or a judge, I was really more limited in what I could do. And part of that's just professional consequences that you worry about. But also I thought it'd really be inappropriate for me to say go public about my personal history when I'm a judge, that it could be a distraction to my work. And so but now I don't have to worry about that. And so it's really freed me up in a lot of ways. It's freed me because I can talk about my whole story in a more open way. It actually has sort of lifted a weight or a barrier. I don't have to filter things. I don't have to filter things. And so right now, my measure of success is, am I using the opportunities that either come to me or that I reach out for, to sort of educate, reduce stigma, promote different pieces of information that I think are important. But am I also containing it in that part-time box? Because that's a challenge for me. It's hard for me to say no to things. I've always been a high achiever and a heavy worker. And so am I actually fulfilling my intention, which is to keep that in the part-time box so I can also do these other things that I value as well. And that's really the struggle for me right now. That's the struggle.
But if you're happy, if it feels good, it is how much time do I want to do it? And
Yeah.
and what do I get? You can get to juggle. What am I giving up to do this? What am I gaining to do this? And those are all pieces of our success measure. Because if we have to give up a lot, maybe it's not success.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. At the same time, we can have patterns, right? Patterns that were either imposed on us when we were young that we have trouble letting go, or patterns that are just habitual. And even though we actually do want to change them, sometimes it requires focused, concentrated attention to change those patterns when you first start. I mean, I found that I can make the decision that I actually have thought it through, and this is what I want my balance to look like. But changing my own patterns is something that I have to concentrate on sometimes, especially when it's early in the process, when it's new, when I'm doing something new, when I'm making a change from this pattern to that pattern. It can require that focused attention and concentration, simply because we are all habitual people, and we tend to fall into the patterns that we're used to.
And that's okay. But
Mhm.
we can change it and then we don't have to
Yeah.
stay that way. We get to choose, and your choice is what matters. So, Mary Beth, it's been so much fun talking to you. We would love to hear a little bit about your story, what you do now, how you can help our friend, and our last minute words of wisdom.
Sure. So, I'm a advocate and speaker for recovery. I had a drug problem until my 30s, and then I got sober, and I talk a lot about my personal trajectory, as well as try to educate people about the connection between mental health and substance use, and trauma and substance use. And so I do a lot of speaking. I do workshops and I do keynote speaking, and I've had pieces in like the Wall Street Journal. I have a book out, From Junkie to Judge, One Woman's Triumph Over Trauma and Addiction. And when I'm on the board, I'm on several boards of recovery organizations. But the overall goal, the thing that ties it all together, is just trying to be an advocate for my community, trying to increase understanding. I mean, the reality is that the majority of Americans have been touched by substance use problems, either themselves or in their family. And so it's a significant issue, challenge, concern. And so I try to use the information that I have to share it to sort of help other people increase their understanding and offer some guidance and suggestions that will make the situation better.
That's beautiful. What would you like to leave as your last minute words of wisdom for our friend?
I guess I view, in some ways, myself as sort of an example of sort of that continuous evaluation as to what life can look like, or the fact that it's okay to change your mind and to move in new directions. And so, for me, I guess I would just say I encourage everyone to just think about possibly sitting down and doing that evaluation once every couple of years. And I think for me, it really led me to a happier balance, a happier place, and just a more satisfied Mary Beth in all ways. And so we will all have our unique individual paths, but just making sure that we're staying in touch with ourselves, I think, can be really valuable.
I love it. Giving yourself the opportunity to reevaluate and choose who you want to be is pretty much what this whole thing's about, redefining your own personal success. So, friend, Mary Beth and I are not licensed medical or mental professionals. We're here for entertainment. People that want to see you make it to your dreams, that they all come true. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.